Welcome back. My name is Ryan Harris for thisbridgestheroot.com. In the last video, I covered GRE point-to-point and GRE multipoint with NHRP. In this video, I'm going to convert that multipoint tunnel into a DMVPN phase 1 and then into a phase 2 and phase 3 tunnel. A little review. I have 3 routers with router 1 acting as my hub. Right now I have a static NHRP mappings on router 1. Both of my spoke routers are configured with GRE point-to-point. I'm going to start a packet capture on router 1's Ethernet link so that we can watch the NHRP traffic. I'm going to go to router 1 and do show run interface tunnel 1. Whoops, did that on router 3, router 1, show run interface tunnel 1. I'm going to go ahead and remove those static NHRP mappings. So config T and no IP NHRP map. I'm going to do a show run interface tunnel 1 on router 2. So I'm going to go under interface tunnel 1 and I'm going to set a network ID, NHRP network ID, and then I'm going to create a NHS, which is a next hop server, and set that to 1055.01, and then go under router 3 and do the same thing. So I'm going to create a network ID 1 and IP NHRP NHS 1055.01, which is the hub router's tunnel interface. So I'm going to go back into CML and look at that interface. Let's do show DMVPN on router 2. So I don't have any DMVPN configuration there. I'm going to go into router 1, show DMVPN there. I have 2 dynamically created NHRP mappings. So these are registered by the router 2 and router 3. And now I'm going to go on router 3 and ping 1055.02, which is router 2. I'm just generating traffic for the Wireshark capture. So I'm going to stop it, download it. Let's open that up in Wireshark. Let me resize that. So you can see here from router 2 to the hub router, router 1, I have an NHRP registration request. So you can see under there, I'm going to pop open the NHRP mandatory part, the source address, and then the protocol and destination. So you have the NBMA as well as the tunnel interfaces, and then you have a registration reply. So we've also got one here for router 3 to router 1. So you get registration request and a registration reply. And now we have pings from 3 to 2 through the hub router. So all of that traffic is going up through the hub router, and that is the way DMVPN phase 1 works. So all traffic is from the spoke routers is a GRE point-to-point and is processed twice on the hub router. So it comes in and then comes right back out. And they call that hairpinning. Let's go back. Let's restart. We're going to create a DMVPN phase 2 tunnel. So that traffic is going to dynamically form a NHRP mapping between router 2 and router 3. So what we're going to have to do there is create a GRE multipoint configuration on router 2 and 3. I'm going to go ahead and start the Wireshark capture again. We're not going to make any configuration change on router 1. On router 2, we're going to go under the interface. Let's look at the configuration real quick for tunnel 1. So under the interface tunnel 1, I'm going to do no tunnel destination, and we're going to convert this to tunnel mode GRE multipoint. As well, we need to make a static mapping for the hub router. So that's IP NHRP map 1055.0.1 to 10.0.1.1. And we're done on router 2. Let's go over to router 3, and we're going to do the same thing. So show run, just want to take a look at the configuration. Under interface tunnel 1, we're going to remove the tunnel destination, change this to tunnel mode GRE Multipoint, and add a static NHRP mapping. So the static NHRP mapping just gets the spoke routers being able to talk to the hub router. So now we have a show DMVPN. We have a static NHRP mapping for the hub router. As well, do show DMVPN here. We still have the dynamic configured NHRP mapping on the hub router. I'm going to go back to router 3 and ping router 2. So now when I do show DMVPN on router 3, we actually have both a static and a dynamically configured NHRP mapping. So that's the static and that's the dynamic to router 2. I'm going to stop the Wireshark capture and download that, and then we'll take a look at that in Wireshark. So what you can see here, we have the registration request and the registration reply, just like phase 1 had. And now we have a resolution request, and that's coming in. So that's the spoke routers asking the hub router where the next hop, the NBMA address for the resolved address. And you can see that resolution request coming through. As well, we're getting a resolution request from the other router. So we're getting router 3 asking the hub for router 2, as well as router 2 getting it. What we're not getting is the resolution reply, which is sent directly to the NBMA address of the other spoke router. So that's DMVPN phase 2. On all these routers, I'm going to create a static route. So I'm going to go under router 1 and do IP route 2.2.2.2 and point that to router 2. As well, I'm going to create a route to 3.3.3.3 on router 1 pointing to router 3. And this is the tunnel interface for both of these. Next, I'm going to go to router 2 and create a default route on here pointing up to the hub router. So that's just a 000 address, 0000 address. And I'm going to do the same thing on router 3. So a default route pointing to the hub router's tunnel address. So I want to take a look at the Ceph table for 3.3.3.3 on router 2. You can see my next hop is using the default route and pointing to the 1055.0.1 address. And this is typical of DMVPN phase 2, where with DMVPN phase 2, when you have a summary route, the traffic will get there, but it's going to be relayed through router 1, so your hub router. And that's where DMVPN phase 3 changes things, where the router 1 can actually inform router 2 and router 3 of that traffic. So I'm going to start a Wireshark capture again to show DMVPN phase 3. For DMVPN phase 3, we're going to go back under the tunnel 1 interface, but I'm going to go under interface tunnel 1, and we're going to create an IP NHRP redirect. So this command basically tells the router that it can get a better path by being redirected over to router 2 or router 3. And I'm going to do a show run begin tunnel 1. Oops, I want to do a show run all begin at tunnel 1. And I'm going to go down through here. I'm going to find, So right here on router 2 and router 3, older DMVPN configuration guides will have you configure the IP NHRP shortcut, and in newer versions of code, that's actually been enabled by default. So by turning on NHRP, we're already getting that benefit. So that was typical of DMVPN Phase 3. So the shortcut allows us to build that automatic tunnel over to 2 and 3. So now I'm going to go on router 2 and ping 3333. And let's look at the Ceph table again. And now you can see from above, I didn't change the routing table, but we actually have a next hop of 1055.03. And when I look at the show IP NHRP shortcut command, we actually see that installed as an NHRP shortcut. So 23333 is via 1055.03. And that's how phase 3 actually makes the traffic path more efficient than phase 2. So we can, with DMVPN phase 3, we can have summary routes rather than default routes, rather than specific routes throughout our network. So let's take a look. We have this NHRP registration request and a reply. And then we have an NHRP traffic indication. So this is known as a traffic redirect as well. So it's coming from the hub router. And you can see it's coming from NBMA addressed in 1055.01 to 1055.02. So from hub router to router 2. And then we'll look at the traffic causing indication, and you can see the destination of 3333 uses a source. The reason why we're getting this is the destination is 3333. So that traffic indication is just going to send direct traffic from spoke to spoke rather than using the hub router. Let's also go on router 2 and do show DMVPN, and you can see that we have multiple tunnels here. And I want to point out the attribute column there where it reads for 10013, the attribute is DT1, so that's actually dynamic, and then the T1 means route installed. So we have a route to these installed in the routing table. Okay, so that's DMVPN phase 1, 2, and 3. We looked at how NHRP registers with Next Hop server on the hub router in phase 1, how NHRP allows for spoke-to-spoke traffic in DMVPN phase 2, and then how DMVPN phase 3 improves the efficiency of traffic routing by using NHRP traffic redirects. In the next video, we'll look at NHRP authentication, multicast mapping, and how that allows us to run EHRP and OSPF. And then I'll show you how to configure all of that using one command and make this a lot simpler. So for now, my name's Ryan Harris. This is thisbridgeistheroot.com. Thank you.